much as we had predicted. Too many humans, not enough space or resources to go around. The details are trivial and pointless. The reasons, as always, purely human ones. The Earth was nearly wiped clean of life. An atomic spark struck by human hands. Humanity was almost extinguished, their spirits becoming part of the background radiation that blanketed the Earth. A quiet darkness fell across the planet, lasting many years.
All right. This This is a very special Dwelling of Duels banner artist breakdown. I am your host, Evil Sonic. Joining us today is an absolute legend, steeped in DoD lore, forged at the beginning, basically Elrond from when the ring was forged. Like, you saw it happen, to quote Billy Zane from Star Trek 2009. You were there, you saw it happen. This is Jaquio. Okay, so I do want to make sure I get this right. Is it Jaquio? How do I pronounce this?
So yeah, the name comes from the bad guy in Ninja Gaiden, and it is supposed to be in the game. It's supposed to be Jaquio because it's a play on Jaquio, which is Japanese for evil demon king. So I'm told. But I, as a kid, pronounced it JQ. So that's how I've always said it. It's just JQ, like the two letters.
Okay.
So, and of course,
the vowels are silent.
Yeah, all the vowels are silent. Just the letters are all that I care about. Just the consonants, I mean. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because the other option was that this is that you it's like a send up to Jaquio Nassus, that you're Jaquio.
Oh, not quite, but
you have the style. You could pull it off.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, the pillbox hats really. I mean, there was a period of time where I was big into suits, multicolored suits. And kids, if you find yourselves having a hard time with, attracting people in your life, try affecting a style that nobody else has. You'll be surprised.
That's good advice. Be a little bit different. Do the thing that, be the conversation starter you want to be in the world.
Yeah, if you go into a bar with a bright yellow suit on, people will think, who's that weird dude? But they will be looking at you.
You'll be the toast of the town. They will
ask you questions. Yeah. So it worked. I mean, I don't do it much anymore because I stopped fitting into them in my 30s. But man, I'm just saying. So yeah, I did see it all pop off. I was on the mini bosses meshes board when it was a puke green color before they switched over to the shiz.
I think I've heard it described as booger green.
Yeah,
but as long as it's a bodily fluid, we're good.
Yeah, it was an age of the internet where every web page was a multicolored experience. So that was an interesting time.
Sometime recently, I forget the context, but I was explaining to somebody how, a lot of my internet history was from a website that just doesn't, it doesn't exist anymore. Like, oh, GeoCities? I was like, no, it was an Arizona-based, message board for local bands that, blew up over 20 years and et cetera, but yeah, that's so JQ is joining us today, and it's an auspicious occasion because DoD has been around for 23 years. It has had a lot of iterations. There have been literal eras where it's like, oh, this was the time where so and so was really prolific, and this is when that was the inside joke and all that. For a very, very long time, people kind of knew, like, they would think of Fox Dragon, Nate Horsfall, as the DoD artist, and he has a lot of history on making DoD banners. But before there was Nate, there was JQ. And I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. Let me see if I can do this without screwing it up. Okay, cool. So this piece works in theory. And what I'm going to show right now is a screenshot that I shared with JQ when we were doing the preparation ahead of time for the tech check. This is a screenshot of the running banner artist history of Dueling of Duels, and you can see at the very top, month 3, November of 2003, Final Fantasy was Jaquio. That was the first month that had any art. Before that, it was, there was no art, and you can see he was the go-to guy for quite some time. Born in Crimson did the May 2004 free month. We're not sure who did side-scrolling shooters, and Ryan 8-Bit did Mario month, July 2005. But everything else, that is a JQ special. And so yeah, that's just generally excellent.
And I was happy to do it. I think I was probably 19 or 20, and I had a pirated copy of Photoshop. And I think what happened was they were doing this competition, and I was like, you guys should do some kind of, if you're going to announce this thing, we should do like a cool like flyer or something like you do like for bands or whatever.
Yeah.
And like, yeah. Do you want to do one? And I was like, yeah. And then I did it, and I guess they were. I think it was at the time it was Born in Crimson and was running it, right? Had started it. So he was like, "This rules. Let's do this every time." So
serves you right for having an idea.
Yeah, exactly. Not to toot my own horn, but I think I might have come up with the idea of doing the banner art, and then for 2 years I was caged to it. But I loved it. It was a lot of fun. I was doing a lot of pixel art back then, and I was doing photoshopping drumsticks into the hands of the Billy and Jimmy Lee from Double Dragon, and it was just it was a lot of fun.
And I mean, that's when you say that, it reminds me. I'm going to make a reference to The West Wing, where somebody's like, "Oh, we should do a thing," and it's like, "Okay, what should we do?" It's like, "Oh, I don't know." Don't come to me with half an idea. You walked me up to the edge, and you don't have anything. But no, you came prepared. You were like, "Hey, there should be art," and you stepped up and you made the art. And I mean, that's one of the things in the history of DoD. We talk a lot about the quality of the arrangements, the performances, the recordings, and that is, it's impossible to talk about that without also talking about just the way technology has changed over the past 2 decades and change. That because back in the early 2000s, collaborating with another artist was really difficult because we didn't have cloud or the drive or anything. It wasn't easy to send stems. If you were trying to make a song with another person, you had to do a lot, and you had to send an email. And we were all in college at the time, so it's like you send the email at the beginning of the day, and you go to your classes, and you have a full day, and you come back 8 hours later, and you hope that it didn't get disconnected and that it was uploaded properly. And obviously file sharing and all of that has changed so much. But the other thing that has been a really cool thing to just look at, and there's less of a universal technological explanation for it, but the art in DoD and just how that's been around. And I'm just thinking about this because I just went through the process of looking at your first and second and third banner arts, and with all due respect, they're not as cool as the 6th and 7th and 8th and the ones to follow. It's really cool to see the evolution of effort.
Yeah.
But they're also they're perfect for the time and place and where they were, and so that's really cool. I think that's excellent. I'm always terrible at being a host and an interviewer, because in theory I have a whole a structure, but we're just going to jump around a little bit, and I think everyone's going to have to deal with it. But JQ, we're a few minutes in, and we've just been talking about your history with DoD, but that's just one of your many layers of who you are as a guy, and who you are as the man, the myth, the legend. Let me see.
Also, famous DoD silver medalist. You might have heard.
Yes.
My extremely dog shit copy of a cover of a Tristram that I recorded, I think in one take on a $150 guitar on a conference mic, one of those ones that had like the little stem. In a very not quiet apartment. But yeah, that was actually, I think, how I got led to the Mini Bosses message board. Was I wanted to learn how to play an instrument, but I only really cared about playing Nintendo music. So yeah, I was like, I wonder if at the time the big thing was overclock remix, and I was like, I really don't like how much of this like electronic stuff is out, because most of it is just they take the MIDI and then they just drop it into some thing and do some junk to it, and it's not that fun. So
they've come a long way since.
Yeah.
It's no longer the console wars of the 90s. Like, it's no longer Sega, Nintendo, DoD, OCR, but we like to pretend there's still some of that, spice in there.
Yeah, but they were back then. I mean, it was like shovelware. They were just laying it on because people were just getting into doing that stuff. And I know you asked me who I am as a person, and I just immediately jumped backwards again. But I'll get to that in a second.
Who you are as a person. OCR sucks.
But anyways, so I started looking for live cover bands for Nintendo, and that's how I found the Mini Bosses. And I think there was another one that was in there that was called the Neskimos that they had like a fake rivalry with, and that sort of thing. So we was just listening to that stuff, and I found out there was a whole crew of people that wanted to learn how to play live instrument Nintendo music, and they started competing with each other to get better, which is always a good way to do it. But
it's fun. Yeah, I always like the. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, you got it. Keep going.
Okay.
I was about to jump topics, so.
I was just gonna say, like, I have a love-hate relationship with the competition angle of it, because that competition element does bring out the ambition in people, and it's a motivator. It gives us. It gives people a reason, like more of a reason to tune in every month. Like, if this was a more chilled, laid back kind of, we're just going to make music once a month and the votes don't matter, I'm sure there are still people that would show up, but it probably would not have had the momentum and the drive that has carried us to, 23 years and counting. So on one hand, I like that the competition does inspire people and bring everybody out, and there's a reason to like tune in and give your focus at the end of each month to the songs, writing reviews, casting your votes. But I am also very much like a Bob Ross, Mr. Rogers type, like, how you place is not as important. Like, and I always get a little bummed out when people feel discouraged by the placement. And I say this as somebody who has had a last place track back in the days before the votes were on sliders, and it was like you have a number of votes, and I made a track that got 0 votes, and I survived. So I just want everyone to know that it's okay. So yes, it's a competition, but it's not necessarily the be all end all. So everybody be encouraged to keep making music, keep recording one take tracks on your $150 guitar with a conference center microphone on little stem guy.
Yeah, and by the way, the votes, they don't matter. What matters is did you get better than the last time you submitted a song?
Exactly.
Because if you're competing with yourself and improving yourself, that's what's really important. It's not about whether or not you're better than Vert. Nobody's better than Vert. You don't need to try to compare yourself to Vert. Just compare yourself to yourself yesterday. You know what I mean?
That's such a good ethos. Yeah, I think like if you ask me the two tracks, like the tracks that I'm the proudest of, or that like hold the really special place in my heart, they came in like really low. One of the track that came in last place is something that I actually love a lot and I listen to, and I'm like, yeah, I get that the mix isn't great and the playing could be better, but I still have so much fun listening to it. And there was another track that was like a really big stretch for me, and I know I ran out of time and it could have been better with like another day, but it was something, it came in like 23rd out of 27 or something, and I still love that. So yeah, I mean, part of the way I approach it is I try to make music that I want to listen to, and if other people want to listen to it, that's great. And if I'm in a position where I can trick more talented artists to help me sound better, and I make a collab that places really high, I mean, that's the only reason I have any medals to speak of. Without, as a solo artist, my best place is 7th, and that was in a joke month. And besides that, I don't think I've been in the top 10 as a solo artist, and I'm okay with that.
You came
in second
placement that I got. I think that I was competing with 4 songs, and I was one of them.
I'm so sorry. It was actually 3.
Oh, there were actually 3. Okay, so I had no choice but to podium. So it was.
Yeah.
It wasn't so much an achievement, in the world at large, but it was an achievement for me because I think that was the first song I'd ever actually recorded at all.
That's awesome.
So that was
that is actually really cool. I had a thought and I lost it, but JQ. Okay, we've got some things that we're going to talk about today. You have a history with video games, with music, with video game music, with art, and this is pretty much a fun chat. Like, you also have some really cool other stories to in your own personal history that I'm excited about hearing you share with the DoD community. How would you feel about telling all of us here about your first foray into making art, like putting an instrument to the page and drawing a thing?
Yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, one of the things that I think maybe, at least the most formidable thing that I can remember was, I think I was probably in 1st grade, and I saw a different kid. He's probably in 4th or 5th grade. He was drawing a gorilla out of a book that he was doing, reference 1-to-1. And it was such a good copy of it without tracing it that I was like, man, that's such a cool skill to have. And I started doing it. I never got the realism aspect of it until much, much later. I was much more of a cartoonist. So I did like a lot of, I'm sure this is a thing that a lot of kids did when they were younger, at least in my age, where you'd sit in class and instead of paying attention, you would draw like a little cliff on both sides and then draw stick figure guys with different weapons, and then you would have them fight. I did that.
That's very specific.
I didn't know if that was a thing that I did by myself or that was something that everybody did, but I had created an entire lore about these stick figure characters, and it started to get like more and more out of pocket. And eventually I met a kid in 6th or 7th grade who was also like really into drawing. And by the time we were in 9th grade, we were doing like sort of comic strip type stuff and just like weird, like kind of, I don't want to say it was like avant-garde type, comic-y stuff. It was definitely more thoughtful and interesting than stuff in the newspaper, but we were making zines and distributing them in school with school like supplies. We were like, oh yeah, look, we're doing graphics class stuff. See, teacher? And they would just let us do it. And so that was kind of like the first stuff that we were really sharing with other people. And yeah, I don't know if I still have one floating around here. I probably do. Oh, yeah, I have a bunch of them. Stuff like this. Adventure Time Theater.
Oh,
was
nice.
the name of the zine. And it was just like, you know, people who just learned how to do Photoshop and were just doing drawings, and it was just, I mean, it was pretty crap. You know, we're high school students. We didn't have a whole hell of a lot to say. In fact, so many of these pages are filler pages because we had to have an exact multiple of 4 pages for the binding to go right. But yeah. That was kind of one of my first little art projects. And then genuinely, one of the very next things that I did was after I graduated school, I started trawling the internet and ended up doing art for a music competition. So yeah.
That was DOD, right? Not a different one.
That was
Okay.
DOD, yes.
When you said you started doing art, before you finished that sentence, I was like, oh, where's this going? Like, what was he up to before DOD?
No, that was right after that. And then I don't know if you can see behind me, I did a period where I did this art with the Sharpies, and I was like, it's pretty good for a little while. I haven't done any of this stuff in kind of a long time, but a lot of that stuff ended up being, you know, do a really beautiful picture of a woman to be like, look, I did a beautiful picture of you. Are you interested in me now? Which, by the way, that's a terrible strategy to get a woman to like you, but it's a fantastic strategy to get better at something. If you want to improve yourself, pick up a hobby and see if it will impress, you know, the people who you're sexually attracted to. It won't, but you'll get better at it.
DOD. Life lessons learned from failed seduction attempts from the early 2000s.
That's right.
I
know. Yeah, I had a crush on a girl that was super into comics, and I read so many comics. I know a lot about comics from like weird 90s comics, like, you know. Yeah, anyways.
I feel like you and I could go on a tangent that would take us a few hours like along this train of thought, but
for sure.
It's probably a better idea to resist that urge.
Yeah, and I'm a rambler, so you may need to every once in a while be like, so, and then just elbow me in the face.
Oh no, trust me. Like, I love a rambler, and so I mean, being able to talk like, you know, online and, you know, doing this thing that we're doing right now and streaming, that is a talent in of itself. Do you happen to, is this the first time you've streamed? Have you ever streamed before? Like, do you want me to explain how this all works to you, or do you kind of have do you have an idea or two?
Yeah, no, I'm good.
I can mansplain it if you want.
I don't know if you've seen me messaging in chat, but my name in chat isn't Jaquio. It's Weirdest Builds, because in probably 2010 or 11, I sort of just started making YouTube videos about Fallout and Skyrim builds, and then in 2015, Fallout 4 came out, and people were sort of disappointed because the devs had kind of gone on record to say, you know, there's not really a pacifist route for this game. And I just thought to myself, I bet you could bullshit a pacifist route for this game. And so I did, and then I just sort of said, you know, people need to know about this. So I sent an email to some tip at Kotaku emails that they used to have. And they were like, we want to write an article about this. And I think that was December 29th of 2015. And by December 31st of 2015, my phone had 99 notifications on every single app on the phone. It was a very crazy month, because I was like, They were copying that article and reposting it in every single like game publisher online, every language. I was getting like people who were like, dude, this Czech game publication is writing about you and stuff. And I don't think that many people watched the playthrough because they might have noticed that I was doing it I just wanted to prove that it was possible. I was doing it in the absolute most bullshit way possible. It was all save scums. It was like, I came up with a much better way to do it. We redid it when there wasn't the ability to quick save at every single turn, but I did prove that it was possible. And it created such a humongous like throng of people who wanted to see more stuff that I started a Twitch channel back then. And from 2015 to 2020, that was my full-time job. So I became a Twitch partner, I think in 2022, and did tons of Fallout and Skyrim challenges. I've done so many Fallout challenges, gang. If you have a question about Fallout 4, any question, I promise you I can answer that question. But
So here's a question. Do you know anyone who is in the Guinness Book of World Records because of Fallout 4?
I am in the Guinness Book of World Records because of Fallout 4, because of that playthrough. And if I have it, I'll show you where I'm at in it. Because I have it's right here. They actually didn't get around to emailing me or asking me about it until 2018. And when they did put me in, they didn't tell me. So I discovered this at the bookstore, and I was so psyched that I was literally accosting strangers and being like, "Check that shit out. That's me." And they were like, "Okay,
sir, this is a Wendy's."
Yeah, exactly. They were like, "Who cares? Like, what are you doing?" But okay. So this is the 2018 Guinness World Records Gamers Edition. This is right around the time that they did put this on like their website or whatever for the Guinness Book of World Records, but they had a whole different they have a whole different book just for gamer stuff. And I'm right there. I was so handsome back then that I was one of the only people they put a picture of in the book.
That's your Discord icon.
Yeah, it was. I think it was my Twitter profile icon, and they just grabbed it and dropped it in. They didn't tell me, and I was like, interesting. Okay, well, I'm gonna drag that around for the next 20 years and throw it in anybody's face who thinks I never did nothing with my life. What about that, Mom? Very supportive. But anyways, so yeah. It was a super wild time I was just doing exactly what I wanted to do, which was make the dumbest of characters in Fallout, and there were so many people who were watching. And it went very well up until COVID, which was right around the time that absolutely nobody had any money to spare, and so I kind of had no choice but to graduate from college and retire from gaming and go into the field I had gone to school for, which was animation and game development.
Yeah. And so yeah, do you want to talk about that a little bit, like the animation game development, what you've been up to there, and how that's been, just as a retired pro gamer?
Yeah, well, I did, I kind of the year before I started streaming, I had done basically from when I was in DoD all the way up to that point, I was mowing lawns for a living. So I mow lawns and do landscaping for all day, and then I would come home and I'd work on stuff. I liked the job because I had the whole winter off, collecting seasonal unemployment, so I could just sit on my ass and play video games. I did that for so long. And then one year I had driven around with such expired plates that I got a bunch of tickets, and then they wouldn't let me pay them because they were never in the system. And that resulted in a failure to appear charge. And so I went to jail. And while I was sitting in jail, I was like, God, what am I doing with my life? I got to stop mowing lawns. So I started going to school. That was the thing, that the impetus to get me to go to school was to sit in jail for 3 days over Memorial Day weekend and be like, I gotta go do something. At that point, I was still so into games that I was like, only one thing I can do, which is to make games. So I started doing animation and game development and found out I was pretty good at it. And I graduated right around the time that the stream started to drown a little bit, which was also right as I was, freshly married. So it was like, okay, now I gotta do a big boy job.
Lots of reasons to make a shift.
Yeah. But I still keep my community together. They're all on my Discord, and we hang out. We go to. I've been to some other weddings. We go to Burning Man together. So
that's excellent.
Yeah.
I gotta say, when we met, we talked for like an hour, like last week, and I thought the fact of the show was going to be that you were in the Guinness Book of World Records, and you just dropped it on me that you were in jail, and that was your come to Jesus moment of like, I got to do something.
Yeah.
I don't know a better analogy than come to Jesus. Is there a more like agnostic friendly?
That's the phrase.
It's a phrase. It's an idiom.
Like,
it doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be denominational, but that's what it was.
The non-denominational revelation.
Yeah, I was just sitting in there like, I had been too broke to like re-register my car and for months, and gotten a bunch of tickets, and the cops had just taken forever to file the tickets, and I just thought they're not going to file these tickets, and so I just ignored them for a year, and then that's how I got put in the clink. But so pay your tickets, kids. But it was like I got out, and I was just like, I'm gonna start, and I think that was just the kick in the ass that I needed to go do something else. And it's a good thing I did, because you can't mow lawns forever. By the time I was in my late 30s, I was like, my back hurts, my knees hurt. It's, you're bouncing on a lawnmower all day. It's not good for you. So I'm glad I got to ride a desk. I got to retire from the force and ride a desk for the remainder of my service years. But that's the journey. And Paige Izzle said in chat a while ago about something else. This is quite a journey, and I think you could probably say that at like 5 different points of the story so far. So we've covered your artistic background and your animation game dev. Like, can you tell us a little bit about the work you've been doing of late? Like the animation art game stuff?
Yeah.
So I've been working on a project for one of my community members. Is a psychologist, a therapist who works in Norway, and she's the head of she's a member of like the Norwegian Autism Association. And my son, who's 4 years old, is autistic, so we kind of bond over that. And so she's been working on trying to pitch to the Norwegian sort of board of medicine, like, we can use video games to train people. And I had done a training simulation in like the Oculus for some nurses when I was in school. And so I was like, well, I have some experience doing that. So I've been working on creating a game that sort of simulates some of the things that autistic people struggle with, especially like sensory overload and that sort of thing, where it's gamified, so it's sort of interesting to do, but also you can sort of begin to empathize with people, where it's not so much like, oh, why don't they just deal with it like everybody else does. It becomes like a thing where you're like, oh, I get it. They have a different they have different like life bars than I do. So I've been working on that. I'm still just doing the demo because I'm doing it all by myself, but the demo is going to be done soon for that. And I have another project that I'm working on now with other members of my community, because a lot of people have been sort of hit by this AI upheaval, myself included, where there's just a lot of people who don't have full-time work, and they're just sitting around going, man, what are we going to do? And I'm just like, hey guys, we all have free time on our hands. Why don't you guys learn different skills? So I have a guy who used to be a guy in my community who used to be he did some stage management, like tech management stuff for big bands and, all the kind of stuff in the 80s and 90s. And he's a bit of an older dude. He can build like his own guitar pedals and that sort of thing. Well, he got back into making music so that he can make some like environmental music and sound effects and stuff for me. And I've got some other people who want to learn how to do programming, and I've got them working on Godot, and then I'm making art. And I have an idea for a game that I think is a really good idea. I'm actually not sure if it's the kind of thing that I should just tell everybody, but I'm just going to tell you guys because there's not that many people in here, and I don't think that it's going to be one of those things where somebody jumps in and kills me, takes it.
I will tell you that we do save the VOD and we put that up on YouTube. And even though we only have, a handful of people in here right now, I'm going to get the buzz going that this is the place to be. Like, I don't think this is going to go viral, but like, manage your expectations that there will be more than 6 people hearing this at some point.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I've learned about indie dev too is that it's not that your game ideas are not so cool and interesting that you're going to get sniped. It's better to sort of talk to people about the stuff so that they can give you advice. Okay. So I haven't kept it as under the hood as I did when I first came up with it, and so I'm not that worried about it, but I'll just
lay it on. Yeah, bring it here.
So when I was during COVID, I spent a lot of time watching tool restoration videos. I don't know if you've seen any of those.
I haven't, but I get the gist from the descriptor.
Yeah. It's just no talking, cool. Kind of ASMR-y type stuff, but there's not. It's just them finding some rotten, ragged, tool from 2000, like 200 years ago or whatever. That's like, oh yeah, this is a corn husker that they used in whatever in a barn in 1896, and I'm just going to restore it to factory settings. And they go through and clean it, and polish it, and paint it, and do the Japanning, and they do everything. They do the electroplating, and so I thought, wouldn't it be so cool if there was a game that's like that, sort of akin to Power Wash Simulator, but you're restoring like magic items instead of just like regular items.
Oh.
So I've been working on that. I've built out enough stuff that I feel like if somebody was like, oh, that's a good idea, I'm gonna steal it, they would probably be too far behind to catch up to me at this point.
There you
go. So hopefully coming to a Steam near you soon-ish, but yeah, that's what I've been working on recently. That and doing some contract work, including occasionally some banner art for some old friends.
And that might just be a perfect segue. If you want me to show the this month's banner art,
sure.
Let me get Gotta get all the things in the right places with the stuff and the junk. Here we go. So this is the NES. So just as like a point of clarification, the NES / Famicom Disk System month, because I am of the mind that the theme of DoD should be inspiring and not limiting. I take a different opinion when it's for a composer, because that's an occasion where we're celebrating the work of an individual artist. But when it's not a composer, it should be as inclusive as possible, because if there's a thing you want to make music from, I don't want you to not make that because of a technicality. So this is NES / Famicom / Famicom Disk System, whatever the hell. And this is the art that Jaquio has delivered upon us. And it is stunning. I love the color. I love the lighting effects, the shading on this. and I can say that, like, I can pick up on that, even though I'm a dummy when it comes to art. So I'm going to turn it to our co-host here, who is not a dummy when it comes to art. Jaquio, walk us through. Tell us a little bit more about what we're seeing here. Your sources of inspiration. What are we looking at? Tell us. Drop some knowledge.
Well, the major. I mean, the first thing when you mentioned this to me I think it was not you. It was
the Man PF is our go-to guy.
The Man PF asked me to make an NES month. I thought, well, first of all, thank you for coming out to me to this, because I am an old head who loved NES games, so I'm glad to do it. And also, I could have created a thing that was like focused on a bunch of different games, but I thought, rather than that, what if I really just focused on the way that the system looks? And then, because at the time, when the NES was out, there was really a focus on sort of like, this technology is so crazy that it is like, it's like transformative to another world. There was like multiple IPs that was the premise, where you got sucked into the Nintendo land. You know what I mean? That happened in multiple cartoons and that sort of thing. So I thought this is a great sort of like concept, is like, what if the whole system was sort of like a eldritch being, or like a UFO or something? And then that immediately made me think of the meme of, and I've never even played the Dark Souls game, but there's a meme of a little guy and like the Yarnum giant guy from Dark Souls, where it's sort of like, anyways, I will put, I don't know if you've got a bot, it will ban me in chat if I post a link, but I can post a link if you want to basically the major inspiration to this art, which
post
is
that
this
link
meme.
And we're gonna pin it.
It's the big guy with big sword, normal guy with normal sword, Yarnum meme. Basically, that was sort of like the major inspiration for it. But I thought, if we're going to put a little guy with a weapon down below, he should be on a stack of Nintendo games, and also, instead of a sword, he should have the light zapper, of course. So that's sort of the way that I built the framing of the art, and also the inspiration for those sort of like that sort of lenticular clouds that are coming down is coming from that meme. And of course, the color scheme is similar as well, if you notice.
That's so cool.
But of course, the art is a square, because it's supposed to sort of be like album art. So there was a lot also of looking through metal art, metal album art, that I just was, very interested in finding the right fonts and kind of creating almost like a metal logo for the NES month and that sort of thing. So there's some inspiration being drawn there,
and that's, I don't know why, but that's a meme I haven't seen in a while. So that's a nice callback to reminding me about that meme, and looking at it, it's spot on. So, okay, that blows my mind, and I love it. And now you mentioned that he's standing on a stack of NES games, of those cartridges. And again, I am a dummy at art. I see art that I like, I'm like, ooh, pretty picture. And I don't dig too deep, which makes me like obviously the best host for this kind of stream. But now that I'm seeing that those are cartridges, obviously they're cartridges. Did you have are there specific cartridges in there? Because I can kind of see what looks like text, and I feel like maybe you picked some games specifically.
Yes, for sure. In fact, of course, it's not part of the render, but the whole cart is there. So if you
of course it is.
Do you want to switch to the screen share, and I'll
Oh
show
yeah,
the blender?
Okay, so we're going to the 2 cams 1 DAW, and I blew up the DAW so big that you can't even see the cams. But they're still here, which is important because it's how we get our audio. 2 cams, 1 DAW. Yeah. Talk us through. What are we looking at? Oh man, this is so goddamn cool.
So part of the reason why I wanted to do a DAW is because I also wanted to say, hey gang, believe me, there's no AI in this. Because as much, if you find a way to use AI creatively, great, but I don't know how to do that. I'm too stupid and old. I just do everything by hand. So the whole scene is in 3D and lit. And this guy actually has no detail at all. He's completely gray. His zapper is a zapper that I'd made before. So the zapper, even though it hardly has any detail, or it hardly has any detail in the scene, it actually does have full color and logos and stuff. So the guy is gray, and the zapper is full color. But the stack has Castlevania, Dragon Warrior, DuckTales, Final Fantasy, Metal Gear, Metroid, Ninja Gaiden 2, and Super Mario 3. And I did pick these primarily because these were all games that I had when I was a kid, and also games that I think have a kick-ass soundtrack. So, I mean, especially Ninja Gaiden 2 and DuckTales, I think are right up there.
Those are classics.
I mean, they're all good. All these games have good soundtracks, but DuckTales and Metroid and Ninja Gaiden 2. Ninja Gaiden 2 especially is like my formative Nintendo game. That's like my big one.
I wish you'd told me that. I wish you'd called that out because when I was putting together a pre-show playlist, I was going between Shane's Let's Kick Shell and Ninjascape from Ninja Gaiden 2. The reason I didn't pick Ninjascape is because I'm convinced I've used that in like so many of the different like playlists that I've put for DoD that I've shared, that I was like, everyone's heard that a million times, pick a different thing. But if I had known that Ninja Gaiden 2 is going to come up again, that absolutely would have been on the playlist.
Well, Ninja Gaiden, the reason I like Ninja Gaiden 2 so much, I have a very distinct memory of getting it when I was a kid for Christmas. But also, I mean, both the Ninja Gaiden games, but especially 2 was the one that I thought was a little easier, so that I could actually beat it. But man, back then, people maybe don't remember this, but back then, those games were, they were just, you would play the whole game looking forward to one cutscene, or even just a you did it screen at the end of the game. And Ninja Gaiden was just cinematics all the way through. I mean, they were doing literally like cut to like widescreen mode, camera panning, like illusion effects with dialogue, the whole game. I thought that was so cool when I was a kid. And yeah, of the 2 games, I think Ninja Gaiden 2 is a better soundtrack. Maybe not as good of a plot as Ninja Gaiden 1 does, but anyways, yeah, that was like my sort of formative game. As I kind of got older, I think the Nintendo game that I probably played the most was Dr. Mario. I am exceptionally good at Dr. Mario.
Dr. Mario is great.
Except for when I play against, there was a WiiWare version of it, and I would play at night. And when you play at night, you play against old Japanese women, and old Japanese women will kick stomp your ass every single time. It was not even close. I play during the day, and I would win every round. I play at night, and lose every round. So, and I knew they were old Japanese women because they have their little, Wii heads. So yeah. Anyways, I don't think I have too much else to show on this. If you want to go back, I mean, you could see, if you want to see the wireframe, you can. But
I mean, this stuff is so cool. You could do this for like an hour, and I think it'd be interesting to see. Like for people who are artists and know what they're looking at, that's really cool. For dummies like me, I'm just like fascinated. It's okay. So, slight tangent. This past weekend, I was in New Jersey visiting family, and we went to the Bruce Springsteen Center for American Music, and one of the exhibits there, they had a room where it was like you hold an instrument and you play a video, and some of it was like learn to play a thing. So they had like a small synth, and it was like, here's how to play the riff from Born in the USA, and they had like an electronic drum set there, and they also had some mixing stations. And I was like, ooh, the mixing stations, I'm there. I love this. So I went there and I figured it out, and I was like, okay, playing with the sliders. And then there was some other woman there who, like an older lady who just came up, and she's like, I don't know if this is working. I'm like, oh yeah, it's working just fine. Each of these slides, like push them all up and you'll hear them, and then do one by one to figure out which one does. And I was like really excited that I was going to have a chance to talk to her about like, I actually, I do like music production stuff, and this is really cool. And she's like, okay, thank you. I was like, yeah, but okay, thank you. And like, I was just like so bummed out. I was like, how do people not get fascinated? Like, this doesn't have to be the thing you love, but how do you not get curious about how this stuff works? And like, I have no idea how art happens. I can see like from what you're sharing on the screen that there's like thousands of details that you can like turn on and off and show us from different angles. And my inclination is I want you to just like take your time and show us everything. And it bums me out that there are people in this world who are just like, okay, thank you.
Well, yeah, I mean, part of the reason why I had so much fun doing this is because, I just loved the idea of making these models.
Yeah.
The controller cords are made with what they call a NURBS curve. So it's basically, I draw the curve, and then I just told it to sort of like, become a tube. So that's why it's all crazy and wiry and that kind of thing. So that way I didn't have to sit there and try to like model these, smooth curves between the things. But, making the controllers and making them, very accurate, and the system is accurate all the way under, even though you don't see this stuff in the album, the cover art. You don't see the back, but all this stuff is there. There's actually a little bit of a UV issue that I never fixed back here that I can fix, but now that I have this model, I can use this Nintendo model for other stuff. So that's kind of why I was like, I'll make it as accurate as possible with the controllers and everything. And then I had some sort of ruins models that are laying around. This ruin and this ruin are actually the same. They're just turned slightly, so I didn't have to make two of them. I'm kind of looking through clouds here, but then these clouds are just a cone of two different layers of clouds, and they're just the different volumes that I have sort of overlaid on top of each other that are various levels of transparency. And then there's just some regular lighting stuff. There's a fill light that's kind of between the camera and the Nintendo, so that there's not big black spots everywhere. And then I've got that nice, glowing light that's coming directly out of the cartridge slot. There's a little light so that this thing casts a little bit of a red light where the power button is, and then there's actually this backlight, which is that yellow, kind of casts a little bit of a yellow glare. But I wanted this guy to just be ever so gently sort of rim lit with this Nintendo like beam, basically this sort of like
make him pop.
Just the implication being like, don't look directly at this light, or it's like the dead lights. Do you know what I mean? Like you just
like I'm so sorry, I just cut you off and lost the momentum. From Ghostbusters, the containment unit.
Yeah.
Because that's what I'm thinking.
Exactly
like,
the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
I was just thinking. Like,
I looked at the trap, Ray.
Yeah. Just that sort of thing. Just like an unknowable force that you're not supposed to look directly into, and he's looking directly into it.
Yeah.
So he's supposed to be the big champion, but he's been drawn in instead. He's about to get
You know, he's about to get pulled into the Nintendo instead of defeating it and going back to his people. But yeah, that was sort of what I was. It was literally my very first thought was, what if the Nintendo was sort of like a little UFO, and it was like, you know, really the glowing half open cartridge slot was what I had in mind before I thought of anything else. But yeah, and I actually had considered, as Menu was saying, you know, this would a 3D video of this would be cool. I had considered doing a thing where it's sort of like rotated back and forth like this, but then I was like, okay, you don't need to stunt on these people that hard. An image is fine, sir. You know, all
you
it
can
would've been
stunt
is-
on us all day long, and we will be here for it. That would.
all it
We'd
would have
love
been is an animated camera, and then you would have had an animated GIF of it. And if you really want that for later, I'll totally do that for you. But
There have been
But-
there have been monthly banner arts that have been GIFs and, you know, have had moving pictures. I think, I don't remember exactly. I feel like one that Crimson did back in 2004, that free month, might. I don't know if I'm just like conflating this with something else similar. I remember there was that Flash animation of like the DoD that used Super Castlevania 4 music for like a DoD art, like a Flash art thing. I don't know if that's the same as like some banner thing that existed, but I have a very distinct memory of that.
yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. I think that it was supposed to be the banner art, that it was like a Flash thing.
Yeah.
And that was a skill that I always wished that I had learned, but now I guess it's okay that I didn't, because it kind of is a bit of a dead art now. But
Yeah.
you know, it would be cool to have known, because it's sort of like the precursor to After Effects. But if I was going to animate this, the thing that I would have thought would have been really cool is, you know the like Neon Genesis Evangelion. There's one angel in it that just has like little tentacly arms, and they're just whipping like
That's
super
okay.
fast. And
So I don't know what you're referring to, but when you were saying like if there was a thing, I was like, I would love to see those cables, you know,
yeah, like
do a little
whipping
bit of
super fast
tactical
around.
stuff, like
Yeah. So that would have been my thought. Is, man, it would have been cool to do that, but that actually would have been a bit of a technical task to make sure that they don't clip through each other and stuff, and
Yeah.
to rig up a curve this like complicated to make it look like it's really waving and wobbling super quickly. But there's one angel that the angels are the bad guys in the game, or the show, kind of. Don't read too far into it. They fight this guy, and he's just got very noodly, tentacly, whippity, and he just, I think, slices a guy's arm with one of his little whips, and it's rad. So that's what I would have wanted to do if I was going to animate this. But yeah,
that is supremely cool. Okay, so we've been on for about an hour, that's always a good spot. I have one more thing I know I want to show, but I'm also gonna keep this wide open if there are things that you want to go into. I always have to like double check and make sure I'm doing all the things. Okay.
I do have one thing that I would like to go into that's completely separate from almost everything we've gotten to so far, but you do your
Please
thing
do.
first, because it's your stream.
Oh no, you are our honored guest. I've got the walk down memory lane for JQ banner art, but before we do that, please share.
All right, so we didn't get. I mean, we talked a little bit about soundtracks that that we were into as these sort of formative soundtracks, and I just wanted to. I thought we would maybe get a little bit into like the soundtracks of the modern era that we like, and instead of just going into like a big deep sweep of them, I thought I would give your audience a few deep cuts that if they haven't heard them, they should go and listen to them.
because these are all sort of games that don't have a huge following, and I haven't even played them all, but they just have such good soundtracks that I listen to them all the time. So I'm gonna give you guys 5. Okay.
Drop it.
The first one is Rule of Rose, which was a PS2 game, and man, that game is. I mean, the gameplay is dog shit, and every other thing about that game rules.
Did I get the spelling right in chat? Because I'm gonna put these in here. We saved the text file from chat, so I want to make sure that I'm capturing these. So these are Jaquio's recommended OSTs.
Yeah, and they are OSTs. I excluded Katamari Damacy and Death Stranding because they are kind of like artists from all over, but those are both great too. But
yeah.
So yeah, Rule of Rose. I think the rest of these are all PC games, or at the very least, they're sort of like modern enough that they kind of are on every platform.
We'll allow it.
Gris, GRIS, is an indie game that's hand animated. It doesn't get nearly enough love. It was around the same time as Cuphead came out. Everything, the idle animations, the backgrounds, the cutscenes, everything is hand animated. It's a beautiful, gorgeous game. Amazing soundtrack. So GRIS. Grim Dawn, if you haven't played that, it's sort of a spiritual successor to Diablo 2. That has an amazing soundtrack, especially for people who are into like guitar tone. If you like that sort of thing, you will like the Grim Dawn soundtrack.
We love guitar tone here at DoD.
So check out Grim Dawn if you haven't done that yet. And then the other two might be a little bit better known. One is EXO-1, EXO space ONE, EXO-1. That's a Reese Lindsay one, and that's sort of more what I listen to these days, which is very sort of ethereal, ambient type stuff. And the same thing with the last suggestion I have, which is Abzu, ABZU. So, and that's an Austin.
I've heard of
Wintory.
that one.
Yeah, Austin Wintory is the guy who did Journey, and I think he did a bunch of stuff. So, and they're both, Reese Lindsay and Austin Wintory are both great artists, are both great composers. I did do a deep dive on them to make sure they haven't had a horrible, like, controversial crash out like the composer that every year Spotify tells me this is your most listened to artist, and I'm like, God damn it. But yeah, so but those 5, if you haven't listened to those 5 soundtracks, that's your homework from your old head JQ. Check those out, and that's all I've got for you from my end.
So old head JQ. I'm gonna put on this slideshow from the old head's arts. So first up, just to call back, I showed this earlier. This was kind of the discography of your DoD art. The very first DoD banner. This was from November 2003, Final Fantasy month. So this belongs in a museum because it is the very first DoD art. Do you remember anything about making this one?
Yeah, I think I was doing. I was trying for the Final Fantasy VI style, where they had that color scheme in the background, and so I just grabbed 2 flying V's, and I think I tried to make them side by side, but then I realized that it would screw up the logo on the head of them, so I just rotated it instead. So it doesn't have quite the right, doesn't feel quite as symmetrical as I would have liked, but I decided that the guitar people would be like, you can't just rotate it backwards and call it good. So instead I flipped it like that. And
but you know what?
Yeah,
it gives us a good dual image. Like it's like crossing axes. You're crossing blades here.
Yeah, and I just that was like the style of all the Final Fantasy logos back then. Was they had this font and they had that sort of like ethereal. You know, for Final Fantasy VII, it was the meteor, and I think for Final Fantasy VI, it was the what is her name? Tetra? I don't remember the main character of Final Fantasy. Well, Final Fantasy
Terra,
III, I guess.
Terra.
Terra in the mech, I think, is the background for that one. And so I think at that point, the only Final Fantasies that I played was 1 and 7. And so I was like, well, the crystals from 1. And so I used those to replace the O's. I wish that there was one more O, so we'd have 4 crystals, but
Oh,
there it is.
I mean, you could have used the O and of.
Yeah, I could have used the O and of. It would have been good. And I think
An idea 23 years too late.
Yeah, and I think the resolution on this was to compensate for somebody who was viewing the Shiz forums at like a 720p monitor, so they wouldn't have to horizontal scroll. So that's why it's so pixelated.
All right, next up. This is from 32-bit plus month. Because back in the early 2000s, there was a lot of 8-bit, 16-bit, but not so much from the 4th generation and beyond games getting covered.
Yeah, and this, I think this was actually one of 2 that I made, and they liked this one more. Because I also made one that was or no, that's right. Because there was so I made this one, and maybe it was a different, maybe I'm thinking of a different thing. I vaguely recall making a Dueling of Duels logo out of the Nintendo 64 logo, but that would have been for the 64-bit month if there was one.
No,
So
it would have been this, because this was, we talked about this a lot during the 20th anniversary year. It was 32 plus bit. And we wanted to make that, we had to do a deep dive into that distinction, and we clarified that the intention then was it was like PlayStation and beyond, so including 64, including early Xbox, PS2, GameCube. Those would have all been eligible, because in those first few months of DoD, everyone was gravitating towards the real classics like the 8-bit, 16-bit. And the point of this one was some of the newer things. So if you did an N64 logo with the DoD mashed up into it, it would have been this. So that's really cool.
Yeah, I vaguely recall doing it and thinking, man, this one took a long time. I hope they like this one more. And I think that they selected the PlayStation one instead, because it was more readable. Because there's the D, and then you can kind of see the O and the D in the background. I think the other one was a little bit harder to see because there was a D on top and then the O on one side and D on the other side. But and maybe it didn't look as good as I remember it looking from way back then. But yeah,
that's the beauty of DoD, is you can always go back and rework it if you have new ideas or anything.
Yeah, I mean the funny thing is, I don't care that much for this logo, but I actually really think I nailed the text. It very much looks like some PlayStation
it does.
Ash text.
It really does.
So, yeah.
All right, next up we've got Mega Man month, and this was February of 2004. And that's just, you nailed that.
Yeah, I mean, for sure this was, I think I did this harder than I did this in a much more difficult way than I needed to do it. It would have made much more sense, I think, to draw those lines and then use the font as a alpha and then just like pinch it down like that. But I think I pinched down the font and then drew those lines like underneath it and then did an alpha on it so that it would keep that anti-alias around the outside. So I vaguely remember being like, I did this the stupid way around, but yeah, this one definitely, that was when I sort of said to myself, all right, we'll do this for every time that there's a game type. We'll use like their like classic logo and just
mix in Dueling of Duels, which sometimes worked and sometimes didn't.
Yeah. And this, I think, is the one you were mentioning earlier, where you so this is from Fighting Games Month.
Yeah. Yeah, this one is definitely. I think I grabbed those the sides, the Ken and Ryu, are straight from the intro to, I want to say it's Capcom versus Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, the font is, yeah, a bunch of different. This is just me going berserk with the pinch tool, if I remember right, or the whatever that tool is called, where it's sort of like drag and slides. So I think I just kind of said, I'm going to do that Dragon Ball Z meet in the middle thing, and it has Dueling Duels like all warped out in the middle of it. So it's not as technically interesting as the other ones, but it was okay. I think it worked out all right.
It's a classic for a reason.
Yeah, and also, lets me know how far I've come compared to this month's.
Exactly. And this was the Ninja Gaiden month.
Yeah, it's very simple, but I think it really, if you were familiar with the game, it's such a immediate, compelling logo. You know exactly what it stands for. So I made it, and I was like, okay, this didn't take me very long, but man, does that look like the Ninja Gaiden logo, but it says Dueling of Duels instead. So yeah, that was kind of like, that was definitely a theme of the banner art originally. I was just doing that swap out.
This next one felt like a bit of a turning point in the style, and that's the Zelda theme.
Yeah, for sure. This one I was definitely trying for something a little different, but I mean, you can see, if you've ever used Photoshop, you can see immediately that I'm just like, I'm going to use layer styles to really kind of try to recreate the Legend of Zelda theme, the Legend of Zelda logo a little bit, but I don't think it didn't turn out as well as I'd hoped. I just don't think Photoshop was there yet, or I wasn't there yet. But
that's the beauty of DoD, is it's a snapshot of where we were when we made these things.
It's very much a mix of different arts, because the sword is 3D, the shield is a cartoon, and then the fonts and stuff are like that late 2000s Photoshop bevel effect stuff on everything.
Yeah.
And outer glow, of course, don't forget that. But I think I was following more or less exactly the way that it is lined up on maybe the Ocarina of Time cover.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
It definitely is Ocarina. And this one, I know what this is referencing, and this is a classic banner.
Oh,
maybe the first classic DoD banner.
The Band of Brothers band, where the Band of Brothers all have different instruments in their hands, but you can only really tell like two of them. One's the guy that has the bass guitar, and the guy that has the rhythm guitar. There is a guy that has drumsticks, and I think there's a guy that's supposed to be holding a tambourine, but you can't really even tell. But yeah, recreating the Band of Brothers logo as the Dueling of Duels logo for the military month was definitely a effective use there.
And last but not least, this is an absolute classic. The Jaquio free month banner. I think this made its first appearance in November of 2004.
Oh yeah, I wish I'd done an outline on that.
Or no, September of 2004.
Because the Dueling of Duels logo that mimics that poker font, that D is all handmade swirls that are coming off of whatever that Joker font is. I think I cut and sliced pieces of the J and the O and created that nice swirly D.
But yeah, Kirby in that picture, maybe people don't know this, is not holding a guitar, he's holding a little ukulele. And I wish I put a little outline on it, because it kind of doesn't exactly match, but yeah, the Joker card.
And that's what we are here at DoD, is we are jokers. All right, so that's I think that's everything I had. JQ, thank you so very much for joining us. Is there anything else that you want to share before we depart for this day?
Oh, I'm just so happy when I very first had the man PF reach out to me and be like, "Hey, you're this guy that did this thing." I don't even know how he sniffed me out. He must have done some deep research, because I didn't use that same username the whole time. But I was like, yeah, I was. And he's like, "Do you want to do some more?" And I was like, "That would be amazing." You guys are. I honestly didn't even know that you guys had still been doing it up until that point. And then I went in and looked at the website, and I was just so
damn.
psyched.
There's so much music on there.
Because there's
so much music,
there's
so much art.
music, and I'm going through now. I'm just barely starting to go through and listen to it.
That was my my COVID silver lining, was getting caught up on DoD.
Yeah, I need to.
That's what I did in 2020.
So I'm chipping through it, but yeah, I'm just, for everybody that's in this community, I'm just so you know, I'm proud of you. You're doing a great job, and if you're making music and you're improving yourself, you should be proud of yourself.
I will second that opinion. So DoD fam, we've got our submission deadline. You still have a good amount of time. This is a big month. You've got until Thursday the 30th to get your tracks in. We'll have our listening party on Friday the 31st, and sometime soon you'll be hearing the theme for our Mag West special competition. But JQ, thank you so much for joining us, and everyone who's been here with us today, thank you for hanging out, and thank you for keeping it right here, because this is Dwelling of Duels. Duels, duels, duels.